Say hello to the humble rutabaga. This root vegetable is relatively new on the scene. It's believed they were created in Europe in the 1600s by an accidental cross between turnips and cabbage. Because they grow so well in cooler climates, they became popular in Scandinavia, especially Sweden. So much so, in fact, that throughout Europe they're still known as Swedes. Despite their rough appearance, they're surprisingly easy to peel, if not a little tough to cut. They can be roasted, boiled, mashed, fried, or even eaten raw. Oh, and did I mention they're low carb too? Hi, I'm Mark, and you're watching Keto Crush, your channel for eating healthy, feeling great, and looking hot. In today's video, I'm going to satisfy my longing for starchy sides with this mighty rutabaga. But first, crush that subscribe button so I can keep the keto content coming week after week. Heck, tell a friend about me while you're at it. I want to do this for a living, and I can't do it without your help. As a cook and lover of food in general, I enjoyed cooking with complex starches like potatoes and sweet potatoes, exotic vegetables like plantains and yuca. There's just something comforting about passing a good heavy starch around the dinner table. On keto, the rutabaga fills this void, swapping out complex carbs for lots of fiber for the feeling of fullness. With a soft, fleshy texture reminiscent of a golden potato, they're almost creamy. For today's video, I'm keeping it super simple. I'm roasting rutabaga as if it were roasted potatoes. As simple as this side is, for anyone on keto, it's borderline magical. This is what I call a base recipe. Once you get the hang of it, you can tweak it here and there to your liking. My cauliflower cheese melt, for instance, is another base recipe. I've gotten some amazing tips from my subscribers on how they modify that particular dish to suit their taste. I'm looking forward to hearing what you can do once you've mastered this one. Oh, and be sure to stick around until the end of this video because I've got a couple modifications of my own I'd love for you to try as well. But enough yapping. Let's cook. The first step to working with rutabaga is peeling the skin off. Surprisingly, it's actually a lot easier than it looks. To prevent the vegetable from drying out, there will sometimes be a wax coating on the rutabaga. Even then, peeling this vegetable is a breeze. Chopping it, on the other hand, is a different story. Rutabagas tend to greatly vary in size. They can be as small as plums or the size of large grapefruits like those I used in this video. The smaller variety do tend to have a nuttier, woodsy flavor, whereas the larger variety tends to have a much sweeter taste to them. In this case, bigger is better, just be careful. Once you've chopped the rutabaga, the next thing you want to do is parboil them. Parboiling is a cooking technique where you boil your vegetable before cooking them again. In the case of the rutabaga, this technique is essentially going to soften them up for us. Here, my daughter Nora and I are doing our best to dry out the vegetable. This way we can prevent excess moisture from interfering with the browning process of roasting the rutabagas. Once they're dry to your satisfaction, go ahead and add a generous amount of olive oil. Gently toss the rutabaga in the olive oil and add Himalayan sea salt to taste. I am and always will be a Himalayan sea salt snob. It's loaded with minerals and it just tastes better. After the salt, go ahead, add some pepper, and make sure to evenly coat the vegetable on all sides. Now would be a great time to preheat your oven at 425 degrees. Actually, if I'm being honest, you probably should have done that a little sooner. When roasting the rutabaga, be sure to spread it out as evenly as possible. The more surface area you have exposed, the more evenly your rutabagas will roast. Great job, kiddo. Booyah. It takes about 40 minutes at 425 degrees to properly roast these rutabagas. But feel free to leave them in longer to get a more rich golden color. And periodically mix the vegetables to prevent uneven cooking. Season with fresh parsley, a splash of apple cider vinegar for some refreshing acidity. Mix and adjust as needed according to your taste. And that's all it takes for perfect roasted keto potatoes. Or, rutabagas. Kind of tastes like a roasted potato carrot. It's fantastic. This is the perfect base, which means it's a perfect recipe to modify. Here's a couple suggestions for you. For the first spin on this recipe, we're going to make roasted maple glazed rutabaga. Yes, it's as delicious as it sounds, and the first step calls for onions. Now, onions are kind of a tricky vegetable because they are high in sugar content. But when used in moderation, they're a perfectly acceptable way to add flavor to your keto cooking. I know this does seem like a lot of onions, but keep in mind this is for 2 recipes. And we actually did end up with leftovers, which means it's also food prep. The first thing you'll want to do is melt down a half a stick of butter. Because the vegetables take such a prominent role here flavor-wise, I tend to use ordinary butter for this part. The next step involves caramelizing the onions. You want to do this over low to medium heat. While the onions soften, go ahead and add a sweetener of your choice. I'm a big fan of pure cane, and I use a tablespoon for this recipe. And now for some real witchcraft, add a teaspoon of maple extract. And of course, an ample serving of your favorite chopped bacon. Air fried, of course, so that you can save the bacon fat for another time. Once you have all these ingredients assembled, you're going to essentially cook them down, slowly removing excess moisture and concentrating the flavors. This process is going to fill your kitchen with some amazing smells. In fact, my kids kept asking me if I was making French toast. The addition of the alternative sweetener isn't completely necessary, but the way that it interacts with the maple extract honestly makes it taste like you're cooking with maple syrup. And since maple syrup is completely off limits when it comes to keto, I really enjoy using both ingredients together whenever I can. Dishes also taste a lot better when you can balance different types of flavors like sweet and savory. That's why a lot of times you'll see maple flavored bacon. So in this case, adding bacon really adds to the dish. Although we're going to be using this with our roasted rutabaga, this mix would also taste fantastic over some grilled pork chops. Am I making you hungry yet? If so, show me by crushing that subscribe button and maybe even sharing this video to a friend. Oh man, that smells delicious. How flipping beautiful is that? Once your maple bacon glaze is ready, just go ahead and pour it right over your roasted rutabaga. These two are an absolute match made in culinary heaven. It's filling, it's sweet, it's savory, it's all these things in one fantastic side. Bust it out at your next family dinner and your guests will be shocked that something keto could taste this good and be so incredibly satisfying. The only problem with cooking this dish is having enough to save for everyone else. I definitely ate more than my fair share, but how could I resist? It's just so good. Now this is just one of 2 variations of this dish we're doing today. The second is home fries, a staple in diners across the Northeast. When making home fries, the first thing you want are peppers. Just be careful because bell peppers do tend to attract certain pests, like this one who just can't keep her hands off of them. That's okay, she has good taste. For home fries, we do like to use red, yellow, and orange peppers over green. Again, like the onions before, they do have a higher sugar content, so don't eat too much in one sitting. Also, don't fuss too much about how they're chopped. If this little lady can do it, you can too. As soon as those veggies are prepped, let's go ahead and heat up a half a stick of butter. Just like before, go ahead and add your diced onions, but this time we're gonna add bell peppers as well. Onions and peppers always take me back to Philadelphia and their famous cheesesteaks, which by the way, you could easily make in a low-carb wrap with this combo and some melted American cheese. But back to the dish at hand. Add sea salt to taste. I'm not particularly shy because these are a lot of peppers and onions. And then for the next ingredient, you're gonna wanna add a generous amount of paprika. Paprika is really clutch when it comes to home fries. Flavor-wise, I find it a little hard to describe except to say it just adds that something extra. And of course, it adds some beautiful color to your cooking. For more flavor, I also like to add some garlic. You could absolutely use fresh garlic, but in this case, I opted for powdered garlic. At this stage, I encourage you to taste and adjust as needed. While cooking for myself, I would have actually added some cayenne pepper too. I like a little heat in my cooking, especially with home fries, but I was cooking this for the family, so I held back. Once your peppers and onions are soft but still slightly firm, go ahead and set them aside and assemble your rutabaga. Just like before, pile it on and mix it up. How absolutely incredible does that look? And here you thought keto was limiting when it came to flavor. Not in our house, not in my kitchen. I hope you enjoyed watching this video half as much as I enjoyed making it. Thank you for watching. It is such a pleasure cooking for you. Now crush that subscribe button and recommend this video to one of your friends. And keep popping in because there's so much more on the way. Keto Crush, your channel for eating healthy, feeling great, and looking hot.